In this video, we're going to build a zoo for the rare mobs in Minecraft. I'd like to point out that I haven't found any of them yet, and this video took me an entire month to record and several weeks of editing. So yeah, this is a really big project. On top of getting all the mobs, we'll be building proper enclosures, each having specific themes to give a nice contrast throughout the zoo. By the way, I will be posting some more pictures of all the builds on my Instagram in case you guys are interested. All that said, let's dive straight in. So first we need to find a place to build the rare creatures zoo. We've got this area down here that could be great, but it needs a bit of flattening out, as you can see. At least it gives us an opportunity to remove this hideous thing from the last episode. So yeah, it's always nice to start a video with very entertaining terraforming. Yeah, I've just realized this would be much faster if I had a beacon nearby, so just give me a sec to kill the wither. I'm actually going to make the most of being in the end to repair all my tools. Okay, there we have it, the beacon fully built. Oh wait, I still need to get efficiency 5. Okay, now we're talking. Sadly, I soon realized that my light hill shaving wasn't having a drastic effect on the terrain. So it was time to go from mining blocks to placing blocks, one by one, for hours. Well, that was 5 hours of placing grass blocks in 1 minute. A very fulfilling experience, obviously. So the first mob we're doing is the brown mushroom cow. So for that we'll need a red mushroom, a trident, and some lightning. First we're gonna focus on getting a trident, and for that we'll be needing a few water breathing and night vision potions. Next, let's head over to the river biome. Yes, the river, not the ocean, because apparently drowned have a higher spawn rate in rivers. So yeah, time for a bit of drowned hunting, guys. Okay, so rookie mistake, I somehow managed to throw my sword. Yeah, I know, on the noob chart I am below 0. But yeah, I awkwardly made my way over to it, I killed the trident guy, and I got the trident. So that was really pathetic, but awesome at the same time. Now it's time to head home. Yeah, with the elytra on it works a bit better. Except when your elytra is out of health. Perfect. Now that we've got the trident, I need to put channeling on it for conducting the lightning towards the mushroom cow. So after breaking and placing the lectern a million times, I ended up getting loyalty 3, so I couldn't resist buying the enchanted book. Yeah, it was very strange, but the villagers somehow disappeared, so yeah, let's go get a new one. So this time we're not stopping until we get channeling. Wow, that was long, but we finally have it. So I put loyalty 3, channeling, as well as mending to have a really OP trident. Okay, so we've got everything ready, so let's head over to the mushroom island to get 2 mushroom cows. Yeah, I actually forgot to get all the stuff for the enclosure, so time to head back to the island to get loads of mycelium blocks and mushrooms. So my plan for this zoo is making all the enclosures relatively different, so different sizes on different levels. So for the mushroom cow, the enclosure will actually be in the ground. So I started digging out the area with my pickaxe and I quickly got fed up, so I tried using TNT. But the area simply started looking like French cheese. Yeah, I'm not sure that's what I was going for. But yeah, no worries, with the help of Haste 2, I quickly cleared out the area, and then I placed a bunch of mycelium blocks all over the ground. For the centerpiece of this enclosure, we are obviously going to do a huge mushroom. So I used a bunch of red mushroom and stem blocks, and hanging on the sides all around, I decided to place some lanterns attached to chains that would basically light up the area. I also built a tall brown mushroom, adding a bit of spruce from my wood farm to contrast with the brown mushroom blocks. Finally, I made a bunch of smaller mushrooms with different shapes and sizes to fill up the habitat. To give a slightly more natural look to the ground, I went ahead and placed down some nether roots, and I also got some amethyst blocks and crystals for decorating a small pond on one side of the biome. Finally, we're gonna add a bit of greenery by spreading some moss and also placing some leaves here and there. Now, for the walls around the enclosure, I went to get some vines at the swamp biome to add a bit of detail by mixing different types of stone blocks and mossy blocks. So guys, we've got a thunderstorm going on, so it's time to transform this cow. Yeah, I'm actually going to turn a second one as well so that we can breed them. And there we have it. We can tick the first rare mob off our list. This is actually the first time I see a brown mushroom cow in my world, so yeah, I guess it's pretty cool. So just before moving on to the next mob, we need to finish off the walls and make a path all around. We've got the brown mushroom cow in the zoo, and the enclosure is looking quite nice and mystical, which is perfect. So now let's go big straight away, because the second mob on our list is the blue axolotl. Yeah, let's be realistic guys, this mob is going to take ages to get. So let's start off by tracing out the outline for the enclosure. Yep, I have no clue what shape I was going for, but as I said previously, I think it could be more fun if every enclosure had a unique shape, rather than having everything identical. Now we've got to find 2 axolotls to start the endless breeding that awaits us. Okay, perfect, we've got one right here. Now we just need to find a second one. There's a ton of tropical fish here, so as I'm looking for a second axolotl, I could just start catching some in buckets for breeding later on. Yeah, there's a yellow one down here, guys. Okay, I'm confused. I have no clue where he went. Oh, awesome. There's one here, and he's pink as well, so that's really perfect. Let's make a pond for the 2 little guys. Okay, so now all we have to do is regularly give them some tropical fish and hope for the best. While we're waiting for the baby axolotls to grow, let's go fill a bunch of shulker boxes with tropical fish. So here I wanted to use some deep slate for the enclosure, and smart as I am, I thought you could insta-mine deep slate if you had efficiency 5 on a netherite pickaxe. So off Tootsie went to mine for ancient debris. Thankfully I didn't lose too much time because I had unlimited TNT thanks to my sand and gunpowder farms. Once I had collected the ancient debris, I realized you now need to get a netherite upgrade template from a bastion. Don't worry guys, I had a few tricks up my sleeve. I simply flew down to the very bottom of the bastion and safely made my way through the walls until I reached the chests, and I looted them without too much difficulty. But yeah, in the end I did all that for no reason because you cannot insta-mine deep slate. Well, on the good side, I now have a netherite pickaxe, but I still look like an idiot. Although by now I'm used to it, to be fair. So my idea for the blue axolotl habitat is having a lush and overgrown pond entirely surrounded by deep slate. So first let's work on building the deep slate crust. And yes, I could have just mined the deep slate like this from the start, but oh well, smart Tootsie moves are my specialty. So we're done with the outer part, and the axolotl population is slowly growing, but no blue axolotls yet. Now we can move on to the overgrown pond in the center, so for that, let's head back to the lush cave to collect a bunch of clay and decorative plants. Let's start by spreading some moss around the edges. Oh, and don't worry, I have been relentlessly breeding the axolotls on the side. We almost have a proper Tootsie army by now. Next, let's work on the pond area. So similarly to naturally generating lush caves, the pond will actually be separated into loads of little ponds, and we'll have a slightly higher pond in the middle to play with the levels a bit. Now that all the main features are complete, it's time to focus on decorating. So I added a bunch of drip leaves, flowers, bamboo, sugarcane, etc. And I also headed back to the coral reef I'd spotted in episode 1 to collect some coral fans. And we're basically going to use them to make some colorful water lilies. I really think it adds a lot to the enclosure. After taking care of my small army, I started adding some lampposts on the sides of the path to light up the zoo and prevent unwanted mobs from spawning. So we're finally done with the blue axolotl enclosure, and as the deep slate is quite high, I built a staircase with a little balcony at the top to look down upon the biome. I also made this little area inside the deep slate crust to be able to look at the axolotls from lower down, and I even incorporated this feature in the brown mushroom cow enclosure to make it a bit more fun. At that point, everything was ready. But I was still missing the star of the show. If some of you guys were wondering why this video took so long to post, it's because getting the blue axolotl took me about 4 days of just breeding. And I don't mean 4 Minecraft days. 4 actual real-life days. But yeah, after doing, I'd say, one of the most time-consuming and redundant things in Minecraft, I got the little guy, and oh my, I was delighted. So yeah, we are finally done with the blue axolotl, and I really hope I will never need to get one ever again. For getting the brown panda, I first had to look for one that spawned naturally. But yeah, we're not getting that lucky, guys. We have to resolve to the long method, breeding. So to start off, we're gonna build a tunnel in the nether connecting the jungle to my base. Yeah, I've just found this sick panda right here, and I saw online that the best thing for getting a brown panda is breeding weak pandas together until you get normal babies that basically have a high chance of having the brown gene. Okay, so let's get these guys back. And now, we've got to start the never-ending breeding process all over again. As this is obviously going to take ages, we might as well start working on the enclosure at the same time. As you can see, I made the terrain on 2 layers, and there is actually a little entrance here so that the brown panda will have a little cave for shelter when it rains. As the theme for the brown panda habitat is going to be a cherry blossom forest, let's start collecting a bunch of cherry leaves. Okay, we've got our very first normal baby, so let's separate him from the rest. Yeah, guys, I'm not really sure what to do with the pink axolotl army, so I think I'm just gonna lure some in the blue axolotl enclosure, like that they can just swim around. I quickly went to breed all the pandas again, and then I started working on the walls. So we're gonna mix some cherry logs with stone, and a great way for adding more detail is mixing cobblestone and mossy cobblestone into the stone bricks. So I made this little path going up to the higher parts of the habitat, and to be able to see the pandas, we're going to add some glass all around, as well as some lampposts for extra lighting. I like having a feature that sticks out over the rest in each enclosure, so for the panda, we're going to build a huge cherry blossom tree. Okay, so we're done with the tree. So here is the real finished result, and now we're gonna add a bunch of normal cherry trees all around with lanterns hanging from the branches. Let's dress up the ground a bit with some bamboo, and we can also shovel down the grass to create a sort of path. For the entrance of the cave, I was thinking we could cover it with some stone blocks for the time being. Yeah, part of the panda cave will be a bit ruined because I'm planning on making a little pond with the water streaming down the hill. Once I was done with the pond, I went over to the jungle to collect some leaves as well as ferns to create some bushes and add a bit of vegetation everywhere. Yeah, we're done with the habitat, but the issue is we still don't have a brown panda to put inside. So instead of just waiting, we can start looking for goats because the next rare mob on our list is the screaming goat. So here we've got a snowy mountain peak. Now I'm just gonna raise the friendly mob sounds and hope for the best. Yeah, we're not lucky at all in this episode. There aren't any naturally spawned screaming goats around, so we need to bring the goats through the nether and back at base. Whoops! I think we lost the 2 babies. Oh well. We've got the breeding pen sorted for the goats and still no baby brown panda in sight. So let's just go ahead and collect a ton of snow for the screaming goat enclosure. You might have guessed what we'll be building here. A snowy mountain, of course. So we'll have a very tall one in the center and 2 smaller ones on each side. I was gradually getting more and more normal baby pandas, which increased the chance of having some with the brown gene, so I regularly brought them over to the separate pen. The 2 breeding pens were really starting to get crammed, but as I was feeding the goats, I heard one that sounded a tiny bit different. Oh my god, guys, we have the screaming goat. The only problem is, how am I supposed to figure out which one it is? Yeah, guys, it's time for mission screaming goat. So we're gonna separate the pen into 3 different parts and then gradually remove the goats in the areas away from the screaming goat sounds. So the mountains are done, and now I'm planning on building like a cool little goat house at the very top. So for the block palette, I will first be using some spruce because I've got a ton from the wood farm, and we'll be using that to make the main beams as well as the floor. For the walls, let's use some calcite because I think it's going to contrast well with the darkness of the spruce, and also it fits perfectly with the snowy theme. And finally, for the roof, we're going to contrast drastically once again because it's going to be turquoise. And here, let's make a cute little goat head to decorate the roof. And yeah, now there is no doubt that this is the screaming goat's new home. I worked a little bit on the inside floor and added a cauldron as well as some hay. At the bottom of the mountain, I bone mealed the ground a bit, I added some ferns and bushes, and finally, I also grew some spruce trees here and there. Okay, which one of you guys is the screaming goat? I think it's you. Yeah, you're gonna see I made you a very cute little barn, and it even has your face on it, so how cool is that? For the remaining goats, I made sure to attach them with leads, or else they would instantly jump over the walls. So yeah, the screaming goat can be ticked off our list as well. Oh, and another great thing, I finally got a baby brown panda. I brought the little guy down in a boat, and it was actually quite funny. And I welcomed him to his peaceful sanctuary, where he immediately started playing around, which was pretty adorable. As you can see behind me, the zoo is slowly starting to take shape, which is pretty nice. So what's the next mob on our list? The Zombified Hoglin. So basically hoglins are naturally afraid of portals, so this is why we don't see them running around in the overworld, causing chaos, and thankfully. We're gonna build the enclosure here, so let's quickly get some black stone from the bastion. For all the crimson and netherrack blocks, I still have plenty left from when I was building the Sniffer biome, so let's get straight to work. Now that the floor is done, let's work on the details. A bit like for the goats, the Zombified Hoglins will have their very own nether-themed barn, so I'm making a part of the terrain a few blocks higher than the rest, so that the barn will be a bit more visible. Yeah, I was thinking, rather than having a completely flat crimson forest, I'm going to add some netherrack spikes sticking out of the ground. Now let's move on to building the Hoglin barn, and the build is from Mr. Mirror. So yeah, here is the barn all done, and I think it looks super cool with the roots and mushrooms growing on the roof. And for the inside, we're just gonna add some feeding troughs with nether warts in them. So especially this enclosure will have 2 main features instead of just one, because on top of having the barn, we're also going to build a large crimson tree. Now that we're done with the large tree, let's go ahead and grow some extra crimson mushrooms to give that vibrant crimson forest look. And the last step is to build a black stone wall all around. And I'm gonna make sure that it's high enough because we don't want to have some zoglins running loose and killing the other rare mobs, because that would be quite terrible. Okay, so that's another enclosure done. As you can see, I built a little staircase with a bridge so that we'll be able to see the hoglins from above without getting attacked by them. Now it's time to get a hoglin. Okay, so I've made a little staircase going up to the portal, so time to head over to the Crimson Forest. This is actually not the first time I've brought a hoglin back to the overworld, but I have to admit I'm still not completely serene doing so. As you can see, she does not want to go near the portal, so I'm going to use a lead to help her go through. Now that the zombified hoglin is done, let's move on to the pink sheep. Yeah, I got super lucky, guys, and I found this pink sheep in my world. Okay, I admit I just dyed a sheep pink. But you know what? Let's pretend it didn't happen. So I'm realizing that the area we have is a little bit too small, so let's terraform a bit. Similarly to the brown mushroom, the habitat will be lower in the ground, with the hill sloping down, and at the very bottom, we're probably gonna put a pond or a river. I'm planning on making a very pink forest, so all the trees will be custom, and for the trunk, we'll be using some birch. And as for the leaves, we'll be using a mix of pink wool from the sheep farm, and some cherry leaves as well for a bit of texture. Here is the finished result of the pink forest. It almost looks a bit too vibrant, but I guess it'll fit perfectly with its inhabitant. Now let's go ahead and add loads of grass and pink flowers. So while I was working on decorating the pond, there was a thunderstorm, so I decided not to sleep through it in case a skeleton horse would spawn. The next morning, I was out collecting some flowers, and I spotted a skeleton horse that had basically spawned during the night. So yeah, I guess we've got our next rare mob. I really didn't want the horse to despawn, so I quickly went to get a name tag of my villager, and then it was time to kill the 4 skeleton riders. Okay, we managed to get this guy, and we're gonna name you Sean. Oh, there's actually another rider left, so let's go ahead and try getting a second horse. I really don't want you to despawn, so you're coming with me so that we can get you a name tag. There we have it. We've got Mr. Sean and Mr. Seamus, the 2 skeleton horses, and we will of course be doing their home next. As you can see, the pink sheep enclosure is all done, so let's get you some extra friends. Yeah, guys, my luck is incredible. I have just found 3 naturally spawned pink sheep, so we're gonna bring them over to the enclosure as well. Just before we move on, let's have a quick tour. So basically we can go down this little staircase and through this door, because this is a walk-in enclosure, and we've got this little path that leads us over a bridge and down along the river. Oh, and I also added this little room for looking in as well. Guys, I think I may have forgotten to put a name tag on the zoglin. So yeah, it's time for a bit of extra fun. These 2 big girls are gonna be called Karen and Rebecca. And yeah, I forgot to get an extra name tag for the baby, but no big deal. Yeah, I'm bringing these guys on a VIP tour of the zoo, even though it's not finished. Yeah, I hope you like this little plot of land, because that's where you'll be living from now on. The theme for this enclosure will either be a hit or a miss, because we're gonna do a swampy graveyard, and the horse stables will look a bit like a church, so yeah, it's going to be rather interesting, and definitely not the typical enclosure you'd see in a zoo. Once the church was fully built, I added some hay bales inside to give more of a barn feel, and finally I added plenty of large ferns. I wanted to add some trees, so I went over to the mangrove to collect some leaves because I thought the color gave a more swampy feel compared to oak leaves. Back at the zoo, I built some custom trees out of oak logs and the leaves I just collected. And then I worked on making some gravestones out of stone bricks and mossy cobblestone. And yeah, this is rather gloomy, I have to say. Okay, we're done, and it does look like a proper graveyard now. And I guess the skeleton horses are gonna complement it nicely, which is what I was going for. The next rare mob we'll be doing is the Arctic fox. I've got this area right here that will be perfect, as it's not too close to the screaming goats, because I don't want to have two snowy enclosures side by side to have a nicer color contrast in the overall project. Now let's head over to the Snowy Peaks biome, and we'll have a look around in case we can find some snowy biomes where Arctic foxes spawn. Yeah, we've got this grove here, so let's have a look around and see if we can spot one of these shy little creatures. Okay, I think we've got one over there. So first I'm quickly going to make a safe pathway through the nether. Now let's catch the little devil. Okay, come along, mister. We finally have Mr. Fox back at the zoo, but I forgot to collect a bit of extra snow, so let's go the entire way back once again. Yeah, while I was digging, I spotted a second fox, so do you know what? We'll bring her back as well. So we'll be naming the boy Harry and the girl Hermione. So first, let's cover the entire ground with snow. Next, we're gonna build a wall all around, and similarly to the brown panda, we'll have a staircase going up on one side. Oh dear, I think we've got Seamus in the panda enclosure. Yeah, Seamus, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you are not a panda. Maybe he doesn't actually like living in a graveyard after all. Now, let's go get some spruce leaves. So here we're going to build a few custom spruce trees, starting with a large one in the center. To help me shape the tree, I use some fences and slabs to make branches, and then I simply have to place the spruce leaves following the main shape. So of course we're not going to leave the ground fully white. What we're going to do is incorporate a bit of podzol, mossy cobblestone, and grass blocks for extra color. And to add a few extra layers to the ground and a more natural look, we're going to place some snow sheets here and there. Yeah guys, your habitat is finally done, and I really hope the wait wasn't too tedious. Okay, so the Arctic fox is done. Now let's move on to the charged creeper. As I made pretty large enclosures for everyone, I ran out of space on the top part, so we've got to prepare the area down here as well. Now, let's go get all the materials we need. Yes, we are going for a jungle theme because I thought it would fit well with the creeper as he's entirely green. So to start off, we're going to build a few custom jungle trees. We can also grow some 4x4 trees as well to make the jungle a bit denser. Now, a very important part, we're going to work on the wall, and we're making it at least 4 blocks high because I want to be very sure that the charged creeper won't escape, or else it won't be a very fun experience. I used some spruce planks for the path going around the habitat, and then I also added some podzol for the forest floor. Yeah, we're actually going to add some moss as well because it's going to match with the creeper's mossy green skin. And we can also add some grass as well as jungle leaves for making bushes. Of course, we can't have a jungle theme without adding tons of bamboo. Yeah, I had this little idea of building mini jungle temples around the place. And in the center, we could do a sort of stone pyramid as well. Now that we're done, it's time to go get a creeper. So we're quickly going to get a name tag before we forget. Yeah, there's definitely some mobs inside of here. Yeah, perfect. There's already a creeper. Okay, let's get the name tag on you. And there we have it. We've got Patrick the creeper walking around, and we'll come back to see him as soon as there's a thunderstorm. So next is the diamond armor zombie. I didn't even have time to start planning what I wanted to do because there was literally a thunderstorm that very night. Okay guys, it's showtime. Let's transform Mr. Patrick. Okay, so that is officially it for the charged creeper. Now let's get back to planning out the zombies part of the zoo. So we've got this little chunk of land here, but it's a bit small. So I was thinking the zombie could partly live inside the hill, and at the same time we can collect some extra stone while digging it out. Now this might be a bit weird, but the zombie enclosure will not actually be a habitat like the others, but rather a full-sized castle. I got this idea because the diamond armor zombie looks a bit like a knight, so I thought he could feel at home in a castle. As you can see, we're building a tall tower for the entrance, and then we'll have 2 shorter towers on each side. This will basically give the main castle look to the builds, because behind we'll have a large house with a spruce roof, which will basically add a lot of inside space to the castle. I'm realizing that the spruce roof is a bit boring, so we're gonna add extra towers sticking out. And here for the front part of the castle, we're just gonna make this little brick wall, and then I'm gonna plant some wheat and ferns, and yeah, here is the build complete. Oh my god, look what happened guys. Oh well. Let's go collect a ton of cherry blocks and fix up this mess. Yeah, to make sure this doesn't happen again, I placed some lightning rods at the top of the goat barn. I think it should solve the issue. For the inside of the castle, we're going to decorate this part using some barrels for making a sort of cupboard. We can also make some little armchairs out of spruce with a little table in between. And here I'm just gonna add a side table and some shelves on the wall where we can place some flower pots and lanterns. Now, I had made this huge space for the zombie originally, but don't be mad guys, I think I'll use it for storage instead. And voila! The build is complete. Now it's time to go find a zombie. So what we need is a full diamond armor zombie, right? So if we give a zombie diamond armor, it will become a diamond armor zombie, no? Yeah, okay, fair enough. This is the pink sheep situation all over again. But I'm still using up a large amount of my precious diamonds, so I guess it evens it out a bit. Here's a little present for you, mister. Yeah, he's not very good at picking armor up, is he? Okay, perfect. We've got the zombie with full diamond armor, so follow me inside, mister. And we're gonna name you Johnny. Yeah, it's quite cool because I made these open windows where we can see Johnny, but he's a tiny bit too tall to escape. So we've got Mr. Zombie in his castle, so let's move on to the next mob, the spider jockey. For the enclosure, I immediately thought of making a Mesa Biome because there's always loads of mine shafts sticking out, and the color of the terracotta is super vibrant, so it's gonna contrast perfectly. Mesa Biomes always spawn near deserts, so I made my way through the nether to get to the desert from episode 1 much quicker. I then explored a bit, and I found a mesa right next to the desert. So now let's collect a ton of red sand. Oh, we're actually gonna head back to base to get a beacon. Yeah, this will make mining terracotta much quicker. Just before we go, I'm gonna grab some cobwebs and rails from this mine shaft because they're gonna be super handy for decorating. We've got everything, so to start off, we're gonna cover the whole ground with red sand. Next, let's build some huge terracotta spikes. So the spikes are done and they're looking pretty cool. And I was thinking we could connect them with mineshaft style bridges. So let's grow some dark oak trees for collecting the logs. So first we're going to use that dark oak for making the wall around the Mesa Biome because it fits much better with the bright orange compared to the cobblestone. Once I was done adding my little mineshafts and bridges, I headed back to the Mesa to get some dead bushes and cactus that I planted all around the habitat. I also added some bushes using oak leaves and set up the pathway by shoveling down some grass blocks and adding a fence on top of the wall. So here we're basically making some cute little terracotta houses that are built directly on top of the highest terracotta spike. I really think this simple detail adds so much to the overall habitat, and these hanging houses look so adorable. Now, one last thing to make this enclosure stand out from the rest, we're basically gonna grow loads of acacia trees everywhere. And yeah, the result is really nice. The spider jockey is a tricky mob to handle because the spider can climb walls, and she can also suffocate her rider, so the jockey will have to live in a special contained area. Oh, and we'll be naming the jockey Ben and Jerry after my favorite ice cream. Let's have a little look around the plains biome, and I really hope we'll spot a spider jockey. Yeah, I didn't find a spider jockey, but right here we have the next mob, the chicken jockey. Yeah, let's get you somewhere safe, little guy. Oh great, the baby zombie dismounted. Yeah, I think the chicken went in the water, so yeah, okay. As finding the spider jockey would probably take a few nights, I went to collect a bunch of sand from the sand duper to start making the chicken jockey habitat. But when I returned to the overworld and explored a bit, a spider jockey finally spawned. Okay guys, it's action time. I've got no doubt this is going to be a very fun trip back to the zoo. Oh my god, the spider keeps suffocating the skeleton. Yeah, I didn't realize how hard this mob would be to get. Okay, follow me, Miss Spider. Oh my god, no. Yeah, as you can see, I did well to put some slabs on the ceiling because the spider is already up there. Thankfully, this nightmare is almost over, guys. So let's work on the final rare mob, the chicken jockey. So I know chickens dismount their rider when they go in water, but rebellious as I am, I'm still going to make a beach-themed enclosure. Now let's move on to building some custom palm trees using acacia logs and leaves. To add a cool detail, I'm making this sort of cave with a hole in the middle, and then we'll cover it with sand as well. When I was done with the habitat, I waited a few nights until I found a chicken jockey, and I carefully led him in his dedicated safe area in the cave. Now, my explanation for this next part is I thought it would be fun having a ton of random chickens in the enclosure. We are finally done with the Rare Creatures Zoo. I really hope all the work I put in this project shows, because I wanted to make a proper zoo, so I spent a lot of time on each enclosure, and of course I'm always up for a challenge, so getting all these rare mobs was quite something, although I doubt I would want to do that too often. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you would like to see more content like this, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I hope I will see you in the next video, and here is a little walkthrough of the finished project. Love you!